Welcome to Cook the Math, where culinary art meets mathematical precision. Thank you for joining. We are back with another episode of Diner DIY, where we take a fast food or restaurant item and we compare it to buying the ingredients from the store and making it at home. And as you can see, the background this time is orange instead of the usual white. And that is because the fall season is approaching. And even though it doesn't officially start for a few weeks, Starbucks decided to celebrate it early by re-releasing their most popular drink, their Pumpkin Spice Latte. Pretty much the only thing that is keeping the Starbucks business afloat. Interestingly enough, the CEO of Chipotle, who made Chipotle a little more successful, is coming in as the leader of Starbucks to try to turn around and hopefully make a better profit, of course resulting from the overpriced drinks, especially this one. Let's see if we can make it cheaper at home. So, interestingly enough, the recipe for the pumpkin spice latte that I found comes from Starbucks themselves. And it is a rarity when we see a menu item actually get an official recipe released by the company that makes it. Even they are desperate enough that they want you to make it at home to potentially save some money. And the ingredients for the pumpkin spice latte are as follows. We have Sabrina Carpenter's favorite drink, espresso. We have whole milk. The pumpkin spice syrup, whipped cream, and our pumpkin pie spice that they put as a dusting on the top. And as usual, we are going to divide this up into 3 sections. The first section is our total price, and that is the price of each individual item at the store. Next up is our dollar per serving, which is the price of the item divided by how many servings there are in that item. And lastly is our dollar per part, which is the dollar per serving times how much we actually need. Now, as usual, I get all these ingredient prices from Walmart, though keep in mind that the prices will vary depending on what store you go to, where you are from, and what brand you get. So starting off with the espresso, and Starbucks recommends their own espresso roast. Now they use capsules because they want you to have the Nespresso machines or the machines that probably make the espresso, but you probably don't have that because those cost at least $100. So we're going to use the ground roast, and that is going to cost $12.48. And it comes in an 18-ounce bag, and 18 ounces is about 510 grams. And we are going to use grams for this because it is a little bit easier to measure when it comes to coffees. Our whole milk, you can also use 2% milk. The Great Value brand is $2.62 for both of them for 16 cups. Now for our pumpkin spice syrup, that one you would have to make separately, which is also a recipe that comes from Starbucks. And we are going to calculate that separately in our segment we call Side Order. Now for the pumpkin spice syrup, that's going to need 6 ingredients. And those ingredients are sugar, cinnamon sticks, ground cloves, ground ginger, ground nutmeg, and pumpkin puree. A little bit of a jump cut because all the sections are the same, and also to save some time, all of these items are going to be Great Value branded. So for example, the sugar is going to be $3.14 for 9.5 cups. Our cinnamon sticks, there was 2 sizes. I'm actually going to go for the larger one. And that is going to be a little bit more expensive, but it's a lot better to have a container and have more of it than have less of a container and need to get more. Even though it's going to be cheaper now, it's going to be more expensive in the long run if you get the smaller containers. Now the ground cloves is going to be $2.08 for about 26 teaspoons. Ground ginger is going to be $2.24 for 22 teaspoons. Ground nutmeg is $2.42 for 19 teaspoons. And then our pumpkin puree, that is going to be $1.17 for 28 tablespoons. Now for our dollar per serving, we're just going to divide the price by how many servings there are. So here, $3.14 divided by 9.5 cups, that is 33 cents. Cinnamon sticks, $9.54 divided by 38, that is 25 cents. $2.08 divided by 26 for the ground cloves, that is 8 cents. Our ginger, $2.24 divided by 22, that is 10 cents. Ground nutmeg, $2.42 divided by 19, that is 13 cents. And then $1.17 divided by 28, that is 4 cents. Now we do our dollar per part. For the sugar, we need a cup and a half, so that's going to be about 50 cents. Our cinnamon sticks, we need 6 of them, and that's going to be $1.50. Ground cloves, we need a teaspoon, so that stays 8 cents. We also need a teaspoon of the ginger, so that stays at 10 cents. We need 2 teaspoons of the ground nutmeg, so that's 26 cents. And we need 4 tablespoons of the pumpkin puree, so that's going to be 16 cents. Altogether, for our pumpkin spice syrup, it's going to cost $2.60 for about 24 tablespoons. And for later, if we were to add up all of our prices for each item, that will cost $20.59. Keep in mind, you may have some of these items already, like sugar and the spices. Now we're going to go back to our drink and finish up that chart. So now that we have our price for the pumpkin spice syrup, we can do the rest of the ingredients and fill out the chart. So for the whipped cream, I got that from Great Value, and that cost $3.48 for 9.25 cups. And then our pumpkin pie spice, that is $2.37 for 33 teaspoons. Now for our dollar per serving, for the espresso per gram, that's $12.48 divided by 510, and that is about 2 cents. For our whole milk per cup, that is 16 cents. Our pumpkin spice syrup, divide to 60 by 24, and you get 11 cents. Our whipped cream, $3.48 divided by 9.25, and that is 38 cents. And then our pumpkin pie spice per teaspoon, that is 7 cents. Lastly, for our dollar per part, for espresso, this was probably the most difficult to research, as it depends on how you make it. If you use the capsules, it would be a little bit easier, but most of you probably don't have an espresso machine. You probably just have a regular drip coffee maker, or you're interested in making it on the cheap. I recommend the AeroPress, as that is probably one of the cheapest ways to get espresso at about $50, or you can get a mocha pot, M-O-K-A, that also is around that price, maybe even a little bit cheaper. But for this recipe, they do use 1 shot of espresso, which is around 6 to 8 grams of the grounds, and that comes to around 14 cents. For 7 grams, we're going to use that amount. For the whole milk, we just need a cup, so this stays at 16 cents. For the pumpkin spice syrup, it says they use 3 pumps. Each pump is 1 tablespoon, so that's about 33 cents. For the whipped cream, they use about a half a cup, so we're going to divide this by 2, and that's 19 cents. And then lastly, for the pumpkin pie spice, they use a pinch, and that's about 1/16 of a teaspoon, which is kind of a bit iffy when it comes to dividing this by 16. We're just going to keep this at 1 cent. And when we add all this up, this comes to probably our cheapest price to make so far at just 83 cents. Now, this recipe makes a tall size of pumpkin spice latte, or about 12 fluid ounces, and that comes to around $5.75, meaning that it's going to be a lot cheaper to make. In fact, it's going to cost $4.92 cheaper to make. However, when we look at all the ingredients we have to get, keeping in mind that the pumpkin spice syrup actually costs $20.59 to get all of our ingredients, that comes to around $41.54, which is probably our most expensive list. Though do keep in mind that there are some ingredients like certain ingredients, the pumpkin spice syrup that you already have, as well as definitely whole milk, and you probably drink coffee on the regular, just depending on how strong you want that coffee, and therefore you can probably make Pumpkin Spice Latte for a lot cheaper. Also keep in mind that if you do get the bag of espresso, that will last you quite a while, as we only use 7 grams of the espresso. And if you divide that 510 by 7, that's about close to 73 servings that you can make out of that, which if you drink that every day, that's over 2 months worth of coffee, which I think is a pretty good deal and would definitely be worth it over the $5.75 that you would get for only a couple months for the pumpkin spice latte. Anyway, that is the breakdown of the pumpkin spice latte. If you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments below. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and keep on cooking and calculating.